You won't believe what we found in these popular steakhouses. What's up, you beautiful people? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Today we're diving into something that's going to make you think twice before ordering that medium rare ribeye. We're talking about a story that absolutely blew up, a scandal that rocked the restaurant industry. Because it turns out some of the places you thought were top tier, the go-to spots for a celebratory dinner, were cutting some serious and seriously dangerous corners. We're talking about raw meat, undercooked steaks, and major health code violations that put customers at risk. So, we're going to break it all down for you, one restaurant at a time. We've got the reports, the customer testimonials, and the viral social media posts that brought this all to light. So, grab a snack, maybe not a steak tartare, and let's get right into it, because you're not going to want to miss a single detail of this. Alright, let's kick things off with a name that, until recently, was synonymous with quality Steakhouse Prime. This place was an institution. For years, if you wanted to impress a client or celebrate an anniversary, Steakhouse Prime was on the shortlist. They had this reputation for perfectly aged cuts, a classic old-school vibe, and prices that made you feel like you were getting something special. The first whispers of trouble started online, as they so often do. A few negative reviews on Yelp and Google, which is normal for any restaurant. But these weren't your typical "the waiter was rude" complaints. These were specific, and they were alarming. People were posting pictures of their steaks, ordered medium well, that were practically blue in the center. One user wrote, "I cut into my New York strip and it was cold. Not rare, but cold." The manager comped the meal, but the whole experience was unsettling. This wasn't an isolated incident. Soon it wasn't just a handful of reviews, it was a flood. The trickle of complaints turned into a torrent. It got to the point where local food bloggers and influencers, who had previously sung the praises of Steakhouse Prime, started to take notice. They began their own investigations, visiting the restaurant incognito and documenting their experiences. This once popular spot was caught serving undercooked meat multiple times in 2025, leading to a citywide investigation. Health inspectors found that the kitchen was understaffed and overwhelmed during peak hours, leading to chefs rushing orders out the door without proper temperature checks.
One former line cook admitted, "We were told to just sear and serve on busy nights. Management cared more about table turn times than making sure the steaks were actually cooked to a safe temperature."
The fallout was immediate and catastrophic for the brand. Bookings plummeted, and the once glowing reviews were buried under a mountain of one-star warnings. Next up on our list is Grill House 101. Now, this spot was different from Steakhouse Prime. It wasn't about the white tablecloths and fancy wine lists. Grill House 101 was marketed as the fun, accessible steakhouse. It was the place you'd go with a big group of friends for a birthday, known for its massive portions, loud music, and a generally casual, high-energy atmosphere. Their whole brand was built on being approachable and reliable, a promise that turned out to be completely hollow. The problems at Grill House 101 weren't subtle, they were blatant. Customers reported raw steaks being served, and we're not talking about a little too pink for their liking. One particular story went viral on TikTok. A diner recorded themselves cutting into their medium sirloin, revealing a shockingly raw purple-red center. That video racked up millions of views in a matter of days, and the comment section was filled with hundreds of other people sharing similar, horrifying experiences at the same restaurant chain. This viral momentum caught the attention of health inspectors, who decided to pay Grill House 101 an unexpected visit. And what they found was, frankly, disgusting. The inspectors also found significant cross-contamination issues. The same cutting boards and utensils were being used for raw meat and ready-to-eat vegetables without being properly sanitized in between. It became clear that this wasn't an isolated problem. It was a systemic failure across the entire franchise, pointing to a massive deficit in corporate training and oversight. Now let's talk about the Sizzling Fork. This place had a very specific niche. They were all about the presentation. Everything came out on a literal sizzling platter, smoking and popping, making a grand entrance at your table. People went there for the gram, to capture that perfect, smoky, sizzling video for their social media feeds. The irony, of course, is that the same social media that built them up would also be their undoing. The problem with a restaurant that encourages everyone to film their food is that you get a lot of evidence when things go wrong. One video in particular was absolutely brutal. A customer had ordered the volcano steak, the Sizzling Fork's most expensive menu item. The video starts with the dramatic sizzling platter arriving, but then the customer cuts into the steak and the sizzle immediately seems like a lie. The inside of the thick cut was not just rare, it was a deep, dark red and visibly cold. The caption read, "The Sizzling Fork's volcano steak erupted with salmonella." That video set off a chain reaction. Experts in the culinary field weighed in, explaining that the technique of using super hot platters can be deceptive. It can create a hard sear on the outside of the steak very quickly, giving the illusion that it's cooked through. The restaurant's response was clumsy at best. They initially tried to claim that customers were simply ordering their steaks rarer than they thought. This, as you can imagine, went over horribly. They suspended the use of their signature sizzling platters for a time and announced a back-to-basics approach to cooking their steaks. Our fourth case takes us to Urban Chop. This wasn't your dad's steakhouse. Urban Chop was the epitome of trendy. Think industrial chic decor, exposed brick walls, Edison bulbs, craft cocktails with obscure ingredients, and a DJ spinning ambient house music in the corner. The turning point was when a group of co-workers, who had all gone to Urban Chop for a team dinner, all called in sick the next day with the same severe symptoms of foodborne illness. The investigation revealed that Urban Chop was using the wrong cuts of meat for these raw dishes. Instead of using incredibly fresh, high-quality tenderloin meant for raw consumption, they were allegedly using cheaper cuts that were not safe to be eaten uncooked. Finally, we come to the most extreme case on our list: Carnivore's Table. This steakhouse had a bold, unapologetic brand. Their name said it all. The story of Carnivore's Table in 2025 is not just about a few bad meals. It's about a complete and total system failure that resulted in a forced, temporary shutdown by the health department. Customers reported receiving meat that had a strange smell or a slimy texture. These are massive red flags that point to spoilage, meaning the meat was likely old or improperly stored long before it even hit the grill. When the inspectors went in, they found a litany of critical violations. The report, which was later published by investigative journalists, was horrifying. It described refrigerators failing to hold a safe temperature, old meat being stored next to fresh meat, and a general lack of sanitation throughout the entire facility. The health department slapped a bright orange closed sign on their front door, a public shaming for all to see. The news of the shutdown was a lead story on local broadcasts. The story of Carnivore's Table is the ultimate cautionary tale. It shows what happens when a restaurant's core identity is used as an excuse to ignore the absolute non-negotiables of the food service industry. So there you have it. 5 popular steakhouses, 5 cautionary tales from 2025, from trendy hotspots to old-school institutions. This scandal showed that no restaurant is immune to failure, especially when they lose sight of their most important responsibility, your safety. It's a sobering reminder that behind the fancy menus and the perfect Instagram posts, there's a complex operation that needs to be run with precision and care. This is why it's so important to be a smart and informed diner. Always check reviews and health ratings before you dine out. Most cities have public databases where you can look up the inspection history of any restaurant. Don't be swayed by hype or a cool vibe alone. Do your homework, trust your instincts, and if something seems off about your food, don't hesitate to send it back and speak to a manager. Your health is worth more than avoiding a moment of awkwardness. We want to keep this conversation going to help everyone stay safe. Share this video to keep your friends safe. And let us know in the comments if you've had a bad steakhouse experience. Or have you ever had to send a steak back? What happened? Your stories and your vigilance help hold these places accountable. Thank you for watching, you beautiful people. I'll see you next time.